I have a very special guest with me today. This is Mr. Dennis K. Crosby.
I'm Dennis Crosby. I currently live in San Diego by way of Chicago. I've been in San Diego for 7.5 years now. And I shifted because of the weather, essentially. I
And
used
who
to live in
wouldn't?
California as a boy, and then I was born in Chicago, but left there at a young age, moved back when I was like 11, and had always thought that I wouldn't be there long, right? It was a whole temporary situation. Ended up there 30 years. And so I always wanted to get back. And 7.5 years ago, I was like, you know what, if I don't do it now, if I don't try now, I probably never will. So I came back. I came back to California, moved to San Diego, and it's been great. My day job, I work in social services. I work for a nonprofit agency, and we actually train people on how to become cooks. We work with a culinary arts apprenticeship, and we work with individuals that have had traumatic backgrounds, that have struggles with mental health and addiction, some justice involvement as well. Learn how to do the things that they're passionate about so they can have long-lasting careers. And that's a very fun job. When I'm not doing all that, I'm trying to write weird, crazy stories.
Seriously, like my little heart just burst. This has got to be like so fulfilling. And
It
like,
is. The reason that I do it, the things that get me up is those light bulb moments for the people that I work with, because they spend a lot of time working with other agencies, or they have a traumatic background. They have all these encounters with people. It can often set them back. When they have those moments where they actually find trust with somebody and they actually realize they can do more than, what society says that they should be doing. Just because you have a traumatic background or justice involvement, if you want to work in a restaurant, doesn't mean that you can only be a busboy or a dishwasher. You can be an executive chef. You don't have to work at a grocery store and just bag groceries. You can actually manage that grocery store,
hell
And
yeah.
so I love those moments. That's the most fulfilling part, is when they can see the potential in themselves, and then they strive for that.
Seriously, I had no idea. Like when you first told me, I was like, okay, don't cry. That's like so cool. Like, this is such a good guy. Like, oh my God, so I'm like, yes, I was like, there's something special about this man. So that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing it now. This will be my 14th year.
Wow.
And I finished college. I got my degree in criminal justice. I was working in retail at the time. And after a couple more years, like after I got my degree, I decided I'd spent all that money and time learning. I better get into, my major. And I ended up becoming a PI working for a private company. And it was like a dream come true. Everything that I wanted was just right there for me. And I did it for 7 years. And after that, I got to a point where I wanted to do a little bit more. So I pursued a master's degree in forensic psychology. And while I was studying, I was just realizing like how much I was missing by not actually being in the mental health field. And so I left that job and I started working for a mental health agency when I was in Chicago. And I've been in it ever since.
Since we're talking about the PI stuff, was it the Pinkertons?
No. So
I love the Pinkertons. I wanted to be a pink so bad because they were one of the first agencies that hired women and minorities.
Yeah.
And that was back in just before the turn of the century, the 1800s. Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated with the Pinkertons.
They were amazing because you see that they have an actual goal in mind, and they're not trying to deviate from that. They're trying to make sure that they have this brand and they've got this reputation, and they know that the best way to get the job done is to be unconventional, Yep. And so, bringing in women and minorities and just, doing the right thing. And it may have just been for business reasons, but who cares? It was still the right thing, for that business and for those individuals that got to be a part of it. So, but no, it was not the Pinkertons. My interview was on September 10th. And the next day was September 11th. And the world just, changed. So I didn't call the next day. I was quite busy with other things, as was the rest of the world.
Right.
I probably didn't get back to him until about 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, yeah, I remember you. I remember you. It's like, we're going to bring another guy on, and we're going to get him trained. And then I'm going to give you a call at the end of the year. And then we'll kind of look at things. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll never hear from this guy again. There's no way. And sure enough, Christmas Eve, he called. Well, if we want to do your ride along, you still interested? You to get some time? I'm like, I'll make the time. And I went on my ride along with another investigator who ended up becoming my team leader. And I fell in love with it. I was only out with him for like 3 hours on a Saturday morning. And I had so much fun. It was so incredible. What we did was follow a guy. He went from like his house. I think he went to a store that day. He went to made another stop and then came back home. And I'm like, I can't. I want to do this. I got to do this. A month after I started, I went into this undercover assignment, like a long-term undercover assignment, working in a warehouse, third shift. The owner had hired us because they wanted to find out if they were stealing, warehouse goods or selling drugs, and came off of that. And then I was a street investigator after that, and just doing surveillance and just trying to find people doing the things they weren't supposed to be doing. And most of our work was insurance fraud, so it was work comp claims. It was, like I said, the first few years, I think I couldn't get enough of it. And after a while, I started to want a little more, wanted to get more involved. And that's when I ended up getting my degree, because I wanted to have some additional tools in my belt, that we probably offer the company. But I got swept away with mental health after that.
So again, some of these questions are going to be some funny questions, kind of like Pinkerton. And so are you a fan of Gumshoe detective stories, like Kolchak, the Night Stalker, right? Night Stalker?
Yeah, the Night Stalker.
So
absolutely. I'm a fan of good detective stories. Last week, I watched Devil in a Blue Dress with Denzel Washington, and based off of a phenomenal book. Like, it's a reluctant investigator. It's a guy who doesn't even want to get into the business at all. And the whole story really is about him wanting to pay his mortgage and find a way to keep his house. Yeah. And so I love that story, especially because there's like this underlying thing that's driving him. It's not about solving the case. It's about living the life that he wants to live. But then I love, also those kind of hardcore gritty ones, especially the ones that involve like organized crime. And I grew up in Oak Park. So Oak Park is actually where a lot of the old time bosses lived. They ran the city of Chicago, but they mostly lived in the suburbs. They lived in Oak Park, they lived in River Forest, Elmwood Park. That Capone, even, he lived in Cicero. He had residences, of course, in Chicago, but he primarily lived in Cicero. So, I had it both ways, where I actually knew guys that were related to people that had been in the mob. And, the city is rich with lots of history and a lot of culture. I mean, it's got so much culture.
Really,
oh my God.
Food.
It's one of the things I have to have when I'm there. Just like you have to have a pizza. I have to have the hot dog.
Yeah.
Italian beef sandwich. I'm going to get that at some point while I'm there. There are certain staples that just have to happen whenever I visit. Yeah.
Let's just keep rolling with it, even though, coffee isn't, to me, coffee is a food. It's
for many.
Exactly. It is. It's
a basic food group.
I was going to say, it's in my food pyramid. I cannot live without it.
Okay.
So what is your go-to? So first off, how much coffee do you drink in a day? And what is your go-to coffee drink?
So my go-to typically is a white chocolate mocha from Starbucks. I'll get a grande, and I'll probably get like a plain bagel to go with it with cream cheese. That's kind of how I'll start the morning. Or I will get a French vanilla cappuccino. Again, probably like a medium. I should probably start going to small because when I get them, it's like I get up in the morning and I'm not rushing to get to work, but I got a good pace going. If I'm not fully awake, I might go a little larger. The problem with that is that I'll be awake and I will be jittery for a while, and so I've scaled it back so that I try to just get like a medium size. But even that lately has been starting to make me jittery. So I might shoot for the small moving forward. We'll see. But yeah, those are kind of my go-tos in the mornings. Unless I'm going to write after work, like if I leave work and if I don't come right home, I might stop at a coffee shop and I'll write a little bit while I'm there, and I might get another, but I'll get a small definitely in the afternoon or late evening.
Oh yeah, I hear you. I pretty much only have two
Mm-hmm.
cups a day. I might have a third depending on same thing if I've got what I call homework, like if I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing research on guests, or I'm trying to organize myself with whatever project I've got going on. Compared to like the pots of coffee I used to drink in the Air Force, like when I think about my caffeine consumption when I was in my 20s, I'm like, good Lord. It's a miracle I wasn't climbing on ceilings. Like I think I can fly. I've had 2 pots of coffee today. So needless to say, I only have 2 of these bad boys.
There you go.
And it gets the job done.
You
So
learn
that's
your limits as you get, at a certain age. I'm
absolutely.
47 now, and I'm learning my limits every day.
I hear you. I'm going to be 52, so we're peers. So
There we go.
I think we've learned all the stupid stuff.
Exactly.
And we're like, all right, we're just going to tone it down a bit.
Right.
So Cassidy, her favorite coffee. Does she have a favorite coffee, and does she have a favorite bourbon? And if so, are those your favorite coffees? Your favorite bourbons?
Cassidy's favorite bourbon is definitely mine, which is Blanton's. I love Blanton's. It's hard to get. I've been lucky the last couple of years. I had some friends that are able to get it, and I've been able to get it from them. As far as coffee, she would do an Irish coffee. She's got to have a little extra kick in the morning, and it doesn't slow her down. Just kind of
takes the edge off.
Yeah, just a little bit. Gets her ready for the day.
Oh, Irish coffees are so good. I mean,
yes.
Come on. Who doesn't want one of those? Yeah. So Don Winslow, he wrote Savages.
Mm-hmm.
He was also a private investigator.
Mm-hmm.
So did you guys hang out on stakeouts? Did you guys, because he would sit on stakeouts and he would be writing his book. He would be thinking about Savages and writing his books. And I'm like, did Dennis do the same thing?
Funny enough, when I sat on stakeouts, when I was working cases, doing surveillance, I wrote a lot of poetry. I was not into the long form back then. I started, so like 1998, right after I finished my undergrad, I was sitting around with some friends and talking about the future. And I'm like, I'm going to write a book. And I had no idea how to write a book. I don't even know why I said that. I just blurted it out. And I said it so often that I started to actually believe that I was going to do it. And so I started to try, realized that I had no clue what I was doing. I was really just writing diary entries. Like my first book was supposed to be about a guy who works at a retail store, which is what I was doing, who becomes a vampire. And then now he has to work the night shift and he has to figure out what to do with his kid. And, I was a dad then. I was working at Home Depot, and I was like, every chapter I wrote was just really about how my day was.
That's awesome. Are you eventually going to do that?
I have a vampire novel in mind. It won't be that. That idea morphed into something greater years and years later. But yeah, that was the first idea I had. And once I realized I didn't know what I was doing, I started writing poetry. I went to, there's a place in Chicago on the north side called the Green Mill Lounge. And they, on Sundays, I think they still do it on Sundays, they would have poetry slams. And so I went and I was just fascinated by it. Like I just loved everyone that got up there and read their work. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to do this one day. I'm going to get up here on stage. I'm going to recite something. I never did, mind you, but I did start writing poetry a lot after that. And so, yeah, when I was working surveillance, on the downtime, wait for somebody to wake up or come out of their house. I was writing poetry. I probably wrote about, 75 to 100 poems during this span of time. And I started getting back into the long form, like short stories and what eventually became novels, probably 20, 2011-ish, 2012, somewhere around there. But yeah, that's how I spent my days in surveillance is poetry.
You ever going to publish?
I'm closer to wanting to do it now. Like I would consider it more now than I would have, 15 years ago.
Like snuck some of your poetry into the
I've
third
thought
book.
about it.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. Yeah.
Very cool.
There's, all my stuff, it tends to take place in and around Chicago. And so there's some great spots where that could potentially happen. I could certainly see a scene happening at the Green Mill.
And then I have some other questions that I want to ask specifically about your books and Comic-Con and things like that.
Yeah.
So do you have so when I was reading your book, this popped into my head because of the Greek mythology, the origins of various characters and things. And I don't want to do any spoilers. I don't like to do spoilers. So do you have a favorite mythical creature or god or demigod and why?
Yes, to both. The Phoenix is my favorite creature by far. The idea of living forever and seeing the world and people evolve, it fascinates me. I also have a fear of death, which is why, which is strange that I have these two books out. But I think that also lends to my fascination with immortality. And so the Phoenix, is a creature that it lives and then it dies, it burns, and then a new one rises from the ashes. And I love that just in that sense, but also from the metaphorical sense of, you're never really down and out. You can always rise from, whatever challenges you're having. And so that bird has always been my favorite creature. As far as gods, I think Poseidon is my favorite. Let's be fair. All the gods, Greek gods, are a little weird. Probably not the nicest people in the world, to say the least. But I love the water, right? And I could totally see myself like living in an underwater kingdom and kind of having control over the oceans and storms over the oceans. And horses are majestic creatures, and he's the one that created horses. And I think I identify probably more with Poseidon as a god than anything else.
You were saying about the Phoenix, because I truly, and again, this is where age comes in, right? We have recreated, how many times have you recreated yourself, right?
Absolutely.
We've evolved, going through everything I just went through, the past 4 years have just been, like they were a living hell. And I do feel I very much like the Phoenix, and it's, that it's a very magical creature, and it's got so much power.
Yes.
And how uplifting that is. I really do feel an affinity with the Phoenix because of the way that we constantly rise from the ashes. And that's freaking beautiful. And I've actually thought about getting that as a tattoo. So
me too.
Yeah. Where would you get it?
Back right shoulder.
Back right shoulder. Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love it. So then this probably ties in, whether it's true or not, but this, I'm sure you can relate to this. Were you read bedtime stories as a child? And if so, what ones and what was your favorite? I
don't remember being read, but I remember reading stories, and especially Greek mythology. Like when I was in third grade, I got obsessed with Greek mythology. It was right around that time that like Clash of the Titans came out. I saw that movie. It came out, and then it came on HBO literally 22 times at least that summer. I counted. I know it was 22. But that story fascinated me, and that started kind of that fascination with Greek mythology and with magic and all these supernatural thoughts and feelings. It was either mythology, it was comic books, it was I read a lot of Shel Silverstein. I loved him.
Love him.
And any books that were kind of based on children's movies or things like that, I would read that stuff as well.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So then, since Poseidon is your guy, and you were talking about comic books, so Aquaman, I'm assuming when Aquaman came out, like you were one of the first ones in the theater for Aquaman. How do you feel about Aquaman?
Strangely enough, no.
Oh,
Because when you look at, like, I liked Aquaman when he changed. Like when I was a kid, Aquaman was, the blonde beach dude. He looked like a bro. He was just, okay. Like what could he do? He talked to fish, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. But then they started to revamp him, and they made him like this badass dude. Like he had a hook at one point. He had the long blonde hair. Like he looked like he was just ready to kick some butt,
yeah.
When they started to morph him a little bit, then I kind of got into him a little bit more, and he had more swagger. He had a little more some anger, a little angst to him. He wasn't like a pushover. So yeah, once as he progressed, I got a little bit more into him.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
my go-to superheroes were it was Superman. I mean, who wasn't?
Ask my boy.
As
I
a
mean,
kid.
I love Superman. He's my favorite, and my friends who are Batman fans, we I obviously don't like to compare them because they are not the same.
They are not.
They're not the
not.
same. You like Superman because he is this, and you like Batman because he is that, and it's literally apples and oranges.
Yeah, it
They
really
are apples
is.
and oranges.
Yep.
And I love all superheroes because again, they right the wrongs in the world, and we live through them. And I remember reading comics and seeing these beefcakes in spandex, and I'm like, go get the bad guys, like because I was teeny tiny, I was like this little thin thing. I barely got into the Air Force. I only weighed 103 pounds. And I so again, seeing these guys and their big muscles and stuff, like I had mad respect, even though it was just a cartoon. Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Hulk, like I grew up watching those guys. And so I was like, okay, beefcakes do exist,
right?
So these guys are clearly modeled after these bodies. And so I loved comic books. And my mom used to give me so much crap because she's like, but you're a girl. And I was like, but these guys are awesome. Mom, like it's stories, like this is justice, like they're doing good things.
And it's also that hero's journey for me too. It's like, every one of them had some type of issue or trauma that happened to them that led to who they are. And you can go one of two ways. You can go the supervillain route, or you can go the hero route.
Yep.
And so watching how those stories, unfold over time is also fascinating to see, and then you start to wonder, what if Superman had become the bad guy? You get those stories now too.
Right.
What if Batman had, gone to the dark side? It's all fascinating to me.
Absolutely. And you said the magic words, hero's journey, right? So again, it ties back to Greek mythology.
Yep.
Everything goes back to those guys who are
absolutely.
My mom always described it as those crazy guys who are smoking crazy leaves. and I was like, we would sit and talk, Greek mythology and talk about these crazy characters. And we're just like, man, they just wrote some crazy things, but at the same time, it's also very fascinating, very cool. And that's the stuff that you study. And everything does come back to, Greek literature.
Yeah.
And so you can't discredit it. And the hero's journey, like I'm fascinated with the hero's journey and a quest. One of my favorite words is Bildungsroman, right? Which is coming of age tale. And that's exact, and that a hero's arc, right?
Yeah.
And all of that it's all related. That's all like the nerdy stuff that I love about literature.
Yeah.
And on that note, this is going to lead us into urban fantasy.
Yes.
And Death Legacy. And now we can't talk about Death's Debt because I haven't read that one yet. So I apologize for not having all my homework done.
Don't worry about it. It's out there. You can get it when you can.
I will. And then I was when I was playing on your website, you have in Castle of Horror anthology. You have
Hmm.
a story in there, yes?
I do, called The Boneyard. It's a it's a horror retelling of Sanford and Son.
Get out.
Yeah, so the call came out early last year, and they were going to do another. It's volume 5 of the Castle of Horror anthology series, and it's called, subtitled, Thinly Veiled the '70s. And so the idea is to take pop culture from the '70s and give it a horror slant. And so I was thinking, I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? I'm like, ooh, I know, Sanford and Son. What if Fred Lamont weren't just living at a junkyard? What if it's like the gateway to a hellmouth, and they've got to, they've, they've got to protect the world from demons? I'm like, yep, that's what that is, and that's that. And I wrote it. It was a lot of fun to write. But yeah, that book has got some great, great stories in there. A buddy of mine wrote a horror retelling of The Partridge Family. It's a fun, fascinating story. Another person wrote a horror retelling of Happy Days. Yeah, so it's like all these great '70s shows. Basically, it's got the horror slant to it.
So
Yes.
I love that. And then also released a
Yep.
horror anthology. You've got a story in there.
It's called Rise of the Diva. It is actually a prequel short story to Death's Legacy. And it leads into introducing the main villain of Death's Debt.
And you also were a participant in some panels
Mhm.
at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And those were for creating characters, right? It was about
Yeah, right. How to create psychologically rich characters. How to make your characters feel like people. How do we take this person that is, in print, made up of 26 letters? How do we make those people like engaging for individuals to want to read and learn about? It's a great panel. It was a dream come true too, because I mean, it's Comic-Con, first of all. I mean, that's like every nerd's dream, right?
come on.
Not just to go to it, but to actually sit on a panel, and be involved. Oh my God, it was fabulous. And I sat up there with some great writers, and we talked about, how do you dig in and actually create a character that people can relate to, someone that resonates with them, that doesn't seem too over the top. What do you do to really keep that individual grounded so that people don't just dismiss it and get turned off?
Very cool. Very cool. I know this is going to sound silly, but one of the things that I'll pay attention to, and I think it probably started when I first picked up the Millennium Trilogy series, before Stieg Larsson passed away. And his character, I was fascinated with his character creation, and it had to do with his characters drinking so much coffee.
Oh, wow.
As silly as that sounds. And I think that's what kind of really brought me into the world, because his characters were always drinking coffee, and they were always eating. And of course I was reading it at bedtime, so I'm in my bed, and I'm like, really, guys, come on. I'm like, now I want a coffee, and now I want a sandwich, and they're always making sandwiches, and they're always drinking coffee. And I'm just like, and that to me really that resonated as a way to really pay attention to a character in a book. And so that's one of the reasons I came up with the questions for you, was because she was always drinking coffee and always drinking bourbon. And I remembered that. And to me, when I'm reading, this is just something that I personally do. I try to pay attention to a character's eating, because if a character doesn't eat, or if it doesn't drink, it doesn't feel like a real
Doesn't feel
person.
real. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's
exactly.
the first thing I do. I'm like, okay, what are they eating?
Right.
And what are they drinking?
That's what turns me off of characters that you like on TV shows and movies. It's like they're always doing these great things. Like, okay, but what do they do for a living? Like, how are they making all this money to do this stuff?
Yeah, like real life. Like you have to give me a real world scenario.
Yeah,
at least
exactly.
One.
Just one. That's all. And if that's the only thing that exists for them at that point, cool. Like if their only worry, like with Easy Rollins in Devil in the Blue Dress, he just wanted to pay his mortgage. He wanted to find a way to pay his mortgage. That is a real thing, and that's what draws you into that character.
Yes.
So exactly. You have to find some way to connect. And I've talked to other writers too. Now that you mentioned the food piece, because having that element in there, I think is something that truly brings people. Like, you can get into the food, describe the food, and describe how it makes them feel when they're eating it, and all of those things, all those elements can go into it. And I think that's a great way to capture folks' imagination, because that they can be in that scene with that character.
Exactly. Food is very powerful.
Absolutely.
I freaking love it. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about Cassidy, her world, the book, without spoilers, if
Without
you
spoilers.
can. That way, everybody who's listening, they can get a window into this world, because you and I are in your world, but we need to get them into your world.
So Cassidy Simmons, she's fascinating, because I'm not even certain where she popped up from. I decided 2016, 17 that I was writing, but I wanted to really learn more about the craft. So I decided to go back to school again. I went to grad school a second time to work on an MFA. So I got my Master of Fine Arts in creative writing. And one of the workshops I took was actually a screenwriting workshop. And so Death's Legacy, my first novel, was actually a really bad script that I wrote for class.
No way.
Yeah. And the script is it's vastly different. Well, not vast. It's pretty different than the book. It goes into a very different direction. And I found out two things. One, that screenwriting is hard. And so my hat is off to anyone that can write a script.
Mad respect, yes.
Yes. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like you have to put all of this stuff into 90 pages. Every page is a minute of screen time. And so, if you got an hour and a half movie, that means your script is 90 pages. And I could not figure out how to condense all that. I did well in the class, but it just didn't feel right. I felt like I needed to give more to the story. And so I decided to make Death's Legacy my thesis. And so I expanded the script into a novel. And I was looking for, initially, Cassidy was just kind of was more of a revenge movie than anything else, right? She was just kind of angry at the world and lashing out and kind of getting people back with this power that she had. But she was also kind of hiding. And I needed to give her a little bit more depth. And so when I started writing the story, I was really digging into it. And one of the things that I like to do with my characters is I interview them. Mm-hmm. I would write down questions and I would answer them as if I were the character. Like, that is so cool. I'm going to start doing that. And so in those interviews, I learned more about her. I learned more about what drives her, what scares her, and learned that she really has, she had more fear than anything else. And it wasn't just like fear of the unknown. It was fear of herself and trying to understand who she was and why she has these abilities, aside from, and this is not so much a spoiler, but she's a reaper, meaning that she's a creature and a being that can usher souls to the afterlife. If you're good, you go to the beyond. If you're bad, you go to the void. And that ability came much later, but she grew up having this empathic ability. Mm-hmm. She actually feels people's emotions, and in a very real way, like they impact her on a physical level if they're really strong. And so her life was really about trying to understand that power, where it came from, how to manage it. And Death's Legacy starts to take off as that power is kind of growing out of her control. And so to manage it, she drinks more, and after a while, the drinking's not helping. And so she uses Vicodin, and then that's not helping. And so then she uses Vicodin and the bourbon. And those elements came from some of the work that I did in Chicago. I worked in mental health. I worked for a community mental health agency that worked with adult men and women with severe and persistent mental illness. Most of them had dual diagnosis. So it was mental health issues and addiction issues. Mm-hmm. And I worked with a number of individuals that would, they would chase pills with the alcohol, and you could see the effect that it would have on them. And so I draw from those experiences in many ways. Draw from the experiences of having that insecurity I've got insecurity. I think, most people I know have it. And so adding that element into Cassidy's kind of makeup, and then making her somewhat of a reluctant hero too. There are those heroes that are kind of born to be heroes. And then there are the ones that you resonate with the most are the ones that become heroes because they have to be. The John McClanes, you've got to save the world. You got to save the people in Nakatomi Plaza because no one else can do it. You're the only guy in that building. You've got to do what you got to do. And so because of her abilities and because of her connections, she's got to now put aside some of those fears and recognize that she's the only one that can do this. And so Legacy is about her kind of coming to terms with who she is, learning more about who she is and where she really comes from, and then trying to accept that as who she is so that she can do what she needs to do. And then we go to Death's Debt, which becomes more about her getting comfortable with that idea. Death's Legacy, she realizes who she is and what she has to do. And now Death's Debt, she's like, what gives me the right to do this? Why do I have the audacity to think that I can do this? This is really about that imposter syndrome that I felt as a writer and that most writers feel, quite frankly, because we're always comparing ourselves as another writer. We're always comparing ourselves as, who has more success or who's done this or that. It's also about, why do I have the audacity to think that I can write this story and somebody's going to want to read it? She's battling that now in Death's Debt, and it's her arc is really, understanding who she is, where she comes from, reconciling that, being okay with that, and now it's about really truly understanding what that means and accepting it, and then trying to dig in a little deeper to find out what she now has to do. There's a lot of mythology in it, because that's just what I love. Urban fantasy, I think, is perfect for me because I like the fantasy portion, right? I like the magic. I like the creatures. I like building worlds where almost anything is possible because it's a great escape from the real world, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I also want to keep it grounded in the real world because in doing so, you give people, I think it gives people hope, right? So when I'm watching an urban fantasy show, and I see, oh, wow, there's a doorway that goes to a different land. That's so cool. What if we really had that? And I can just kind of think about that. Oh, what if I could leave work after a rough day and then open this door and then go back in time to a speakeasy in the 20s? Or, go back and watch, I don't know, watch the pyramids being, something magical happening. And that's what I like about this. So I can take those real world pieces. I can take the trauma. I can take the depression and all of the challenges that people face, but I can add these magical elements that help kind of give some semblance of hope, or at the very least, an escape from what we're actually experiencing on a day-to-day basis.
I'm so glad that you explained that because I don't think I've read any other urban fantasy.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed Cassidy every time he talked about like the park, like I could envision it because it's a real place. And if I wasn't too sure where it was, I could go Google it and stay grounded, but have that escapism. And again, that's the beauty of literature. And that's why we read. We don't necessarily want to stay here.
Yeah.
Some days you really want to get away. Sometimes you can't afford to get away. So you're like, you know what? I'm going to go pick up this book and I'm going to go disappear. And you do, and you just disappear into this magical land, and you get to meet these awesome characters. I don't want to give away too much, but I remember when the Marine was killed, I was trying to think. I was like, okay, is he collecting these particular people because he's wanting the strength of their soul? Like, I was like, where is Dennis going with this? Why did he kill this person, and why did he kill this person, and why did he kill this person? And like, what is he going to do with these people? So in my head, again, this was very early on into the story before I even got, I had any idea what was going on. And that's what I do. I ask questions in the sense of, okay, where are we going? What's happening? Where is he taking me? And then I have to use, it's kind of like a roller coaster. You're sitting and it's like chink, 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 chink. And I'm sitting and I'm like, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? Click, 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 click. And then you get to that, and then you kind of just have to let your hands go. And it's kind of like, okay, stop asking questions. Just let him tell me the story, but I think, I don't know if it's just my crazy brain or it's because I'm excited.
I actually had a friend that did that to me the other day. She started reading Death's Debt, and she was, I don't know, not even a third of the way through the book, and she's messaging me all these questions. Like, you got all this backstory. I don't even know what this is going. Like, what are you doing? Like you have to read more to find out. Like, I promise you, it's going somewhere. And then by the time she finished it, she goes, "Oh my God, it all came together. Like, that was really good. Like, it was complex, but I love how you put it together." And I'm like, there's a method to my madness. I promise I won't. I'll do my best, not to just lead you astray and not make it make sense. That scene that you talked about with the Marine. So there are 3 separate death scenes. They have their own chapters just about those 3 individuals and how they die. And there's a purpose behind them dying, so that they can, the big bad can, obtain their souls and their power. But even my editor, she's like, "Why did you put these in here? We don't need this." I'm like, "Well, we do, because it's going somewhere, I promise you." But also, like, I know these 3 people. Those are friends of mine. And I put on my Facebook page when I was writing Death's Legacy, I'm like, "Who wants to die in my novel? I need 3 to 5 people." And I had, I don't know, like 20 responses. And I took 3 of them.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And I took 5 of them, and I gave 3 of them actually separate chapters. So the Marine, Ben, is a buddy of mine. He's a writer. Actually, he has a book coming out next fall. His first novel will be coming out next fall, but he's a Marine. And I wanted to, like, I gave him a scene that was, I messaged him and said, "Yeah, I just killed you." I said, it's great. I said, "But I promise you, it's fitting of a Marine. So you'll really love it." One of the characters was my son, the paramedic. My son's not a paramedic, but I gave the paramedic my son's name, and I killed him. And I told my son, I said, "Hey, I just killed you in the book." He's like, "Dude." I said, "Don't worry, it's fantasy. I can always bring you back if I want to."
That's awesome. Oh my God. That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, the other part of writing I love is bringing people that I know into my world. Death's Debt has one of my best friends. He's in the book. He passed away last December 2020. And in fact, his birthday is tomorrow. So I wanted to kind of honor him, and it's all in Chicago. And I'm like, this would be a great way. Like, I could put him in this book very easily and just kind of make him an old friend of Cassidy's. And just knowing how he is and his mannerism, like, this would be perfect. And so I added him in. I dedicated the book to him, actually.
Aww.
And so I like bringing people that I know into my world, because it helps draw them in, but it also just helps make it that much more real for me. I take much more pride, and I take more time with making sure the story is as strong as it could be, because I'm actually bringing in people that I know. I want to make sure I respect them as much as possible too.
Absolutely. And I love that you are like the ultimate puppet master in that way. Right. And but you said, "I just killed you." And I was like, but I can bring you back. Like, that is, I love that. Like, that's a great story. And then it's also beautiful that you can honor your friend,
Yeah.
like that's, again, big heart. You got a big heart. There's a big heart in that guy. And that's, I love being able to have a window into, the writer's world. Like, that's really cool, because it helps us get closer to you, so that we can connect with you again, even more on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful that you were able to bring him in and honor him that way. And I love that you told the Marine, it's fitting of a Marine's death. And it's funny that you say that, because I was reading that and I was like, that's how a Marine's gonna do it. Like, I was like, I can relate to that guy. So to Ben, I can relate to Ben. So I very much enjoyed Ben's death. And I say that in the most loving way.
In the most loving way possible. Yes.
Yes. No, so this is really cool. I really enjoyed talking with you and getting to know you. Is there anything that we should know? You've got a third book currently?
I am working on book 3 slowly. It's booked. So it's funny. I wrote book 2 much faster than I wrote book 1, but it took a while for me to really get going with it. And I find book 3, I'm having the same challenges. Some of it's kind of COVID fatigue,
Makes sense.
for sure. But yeah, I'm trying to get this story right. I think I've got it really where it needs to be, and I'm working on it now, very slowly, but working on it now. But I'm also going to be working on a mystery novel this year too. That my plan is to write 2 books this year and publish at least one of them. So the third book in this series will definitely be published, and then the mystery novel. We'll kind of see. I'm going to shop that around a little bit and see what that looks like. People always asked, why didn't you write a mystery book? You used to be a PI. You were a PI for 7 years, and you're writing fantasy. And I'm like, yeah. It's the same principle as a guy that works at the Cheesecake Factory for 20 years, probably doesn't like cheesecake as much as he used to, But also, even more than that, it was about, I wanted to make sure I got it right. Like, when people think of PIs, the first thing they think of is the show Cheaters, or that we are following around, cheating spouses, hiding in bushes with those gotcha moments. And there are many more elements that go into it. And I want to make sure that I honor it, at least as a profession, and honor the people that actually do it and do it well. And so I don't, even though I was in it, there's still things that I want to make sure don't get trivialized. And you can trivialize something easily if you don't know how to actually write in that genre well. And so I've been trying to brush up a little bit more on mysteries, whether it's reading or writing, taking a few mystery workshops, and just trying to make sure that I get those elements correct so that it flows well and that it really does some credit to that genre. So that'll happen at some point this year too.
Very cool. So, and do you think it will just be a trilogy, or
no?
I was going to say, are you just going to keep going with it?
Yeah, I mean, when they get tired of Cassidy, then I'll think about stopping. This kind of story arc that she's currently on, this storyline rather, I can probably go. I've got in mind at least 4 books for this storyline, but even after the storyline kind of wraps up, there's so many more adventures that she can go on that I can envision just kind of writing her forever.
Don't leave me hanging. And so when I finished your book, mm-hmm. and you had finished the second book, I was like, oh, hallelujah. I was like, there's a second part to this story. I'm like,
yeah, but you'll be mad at the end of this one because I've got 3 cliffhangers.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
you are warned.
So at least I have a book 2. Okay, there's a cliffhanger. You have warned me. I will cool my jets, and I will patiently wait for the rest of the stories to come. So I won't be so aggro when I finish the second one. But yeah, I go, what are you doing to me? Like, it's funny because we get so attached to characters,
yeah,
and we do fall in love with characters, and to be attached to a character and to a story, that's got to make you feel like you've done your job as a writer.
Absolutely. When I've received, especially with book 2 just came out in November, so I think people are still reading it. But with Legacy, I was really surprised at how many people that I didn't know would message me and just say how much they related to the character. And there's a woman from England. She had read the book. She was reading on her Kindle, and she was like thanking me for the way that I represented the character. And another person's like, "Oh my God, this is so." I had a cousin that was doing. I'm like, "Oh my God, this is wonderful." Like, people are actually connecting with it. That means I did something right. And having that, I think, is the kind of that ultimate thank you. that you actually have created something that people can connect to, that draws them in. And now not only do they like your work, but they like
Yeah.
because you guys go together, So it's been wonderful to get that feedback and to know that I was really on the right path. It's so easy and to just do things for shock value, and it's like it doesn't really do justice to the story, to the character, and it completely, in my opinion, disrespects the reader. And I never want to do that. And so I'm very careful about how I portray the characters, what the things that they go through. I want to make sure that it's understood that it's not like a stereotype, and that's very important to me, more even so than the plot, is just making sure I get the character right and that I'm respectful of that character.
Very cool. Regarding your audiobooks, and
Mhm.
this might be like the stupidest question, so I apologize.
No.
Do you get to pick who the narrator is, or do you get to tell someone who the narrator, or do you suggest, I don't know anything about that world. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you have experience in that, if you want to share to help other people understand the process.
Sure. So there's a lot of a lot of things that you can do as you get more established in the field. You can kind of, I hear at least, the big name bestsellers, they can kind of pick and choose who they might want. Audiobook recorder or the narrators, their schedules get kind of busy, so it's kind of hard to say, hey, I would love for you to do this, and either their price range might be out of the question, or their time frame might be out of the question. But there are some things. So mine is published through Audible, and with them, what I'm able to do is request people to audition. So I can put a sample of my book up, and you do maybe 2 or 3 pages, and you kind of narrow down the field. You say, okay, I'm looking for a female narrator, someone that can, maybe do a Southern accent, or someone that's got an urban type feel, maybe someone that can do British accents. You can narrow it down like that much, and then you'll get kind of this group, and you can look and you can hear their samples, or you invite them to audition to read for you. And so with mine, I put mine up for audition, and I had probably like 8 people that did some sample recordings. And the one that I chose, April Lee, the sample that she read, I felt like she captured Cassidy's sarcasm, which is very important for me because she's very sarcastic. And I just kind of noticed that in the way that she read it. She captured the sarcasm. She captured a lot of the angst that Cassidy feels, some of the anger, and it felt right for her to do that. So I tapped her to narrate the book for me. And and so you can set a timeline. Like if you're looking to get this book out in 2 or 3 months, you say, okay, this is the deadline to get it done. If you need an extension, let me know, whatever the case may be. And you just kind of wait for her to download, and she'll go section by section, chapter by chapter. And as she's recording and uploading, you can listen back and say, ooh, that sounds great. Or if something didn't get captured right, you email and say, hey, this voice sounded a little bit too rough. Maybe scale it back a little bit. Can you redo this? And they can go back and redo them.
How cool is that? That's freaking cool. Like I was, when I saw that you had Audible and with a file, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I've always been curious.
Mm-hmm.
Does the author have the capacity to be involved, or does the publishing company just go, nope, this is who we've chosen, this is what we're doing, this is part of the contract? So that's freaking cool. So thank you very much for explaining that process, because
Absolutely.
That to me is like a little nerd element that like, again, because I want to connect to you. So the fact that you chose her to be the voice of the character, like that's freaking cool.
And like I said, it can be different. I think with different audio companies, there might be some that you just kind of get paired with somebody, you don't have much say into it. But I publish hybrid, meaning that my publisher is a hybrid publisher. So I am an indie author that publishes under a publishing imprint. And so I have a lot of control over what happens, not just the content of my book. I give a great deal of feedback into the covers. I kind of describe what I want. They go ahead and they design it, and I can say yay or nay. Fortunately, like these two covers are the first time out that they hit home runs with both of them. So there was not a lot of back and forth with those. But anything that happens in terms of content, or I own all the rights to my characters, everything that I write, I receive all the royalties for. I don't have to share it with anybody. And so with the audiobook, it's kind of the same way in that I'm not a big name author, so I don't have to kind of compete. And I can find ways to get more involved in that process, and working with Audible, ACX has been really, really beneficial in the sense that I can see how that that part of the business is done, and kind of learn more about it, and have more input and impact on it.
Very cool. And I'm glad that you said that, because has the idea of maybe like I know we were talking about script writing and screenplays, and it started out originally.
Yeah.
Have you considered, or has anyone approached you to say, hey, we would like to turn this into like a TV limited series, or a TV miniseries, or
not yet,
some sort of TV show or movie or something like that?
Yeah, I would love that. Hasn't happened yet. I am hopeful. I would love to see this character as a series. I think there's a number of storylines that could go from this, or come from this. So yeah, I think in the back of my mind that's the hope. I also want to be able to kind of cultivate this character a little more, get a little bit more content out there for her. And I think as we've got more stories, I think that becomes more of a viable option. But I'm open at any time. So I think after book 3, I might try to pursue that a little bit more, and see kind of what that world might look like.
Very cool. Because as I was reading it, I could totally see like a sci-fi show. Like it just kind of popped into my head as I was like, this would be really cool to like see as a TV series. Like
exactly.
I could totally see that. And that was just in book 1. I haven't even gotten to the rest of the story, but I was reading it, and I could, the way that you were describing the smoke and the swirls, like I was like, ooh,
yeah.
I was like, I could totally see that. That would be really cool. So okay,
I would love it. I would totally love it.
That's the hope. That's what we're all going to put out into the universe, and we're going to say, get out on sci-fi and put those vibes out there. And then,
definitely every day, every morning, put it out there.
All right. I have my little, I don't know if you do affirmations or little, I'm surrounded by, I've got little Post-it notes here. And so I stare at this, and I can't take credit for this. So the ones who tell the stories rule the world. And that's a Hopi proverb, and it's right here on the wall. And so it reminds me that storytelling is how we connect. That's my world, my head. And then I also have the Post-it note. It's good to be a unicorn.
I love it.
So don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself, and put yourself out there, and share yourself with the world.
Yes, definitely.
And so I love it. And then on that note, what I would love to do is, now that I have a little tagline, and like I said, I take no credit for this. I do take credit for that. It's good to be a unicorn, even though I did borrow it from, what was the movie? Where they say it's good to be a gangster, and they're destroying the
Office Space.
That one.
Destroying the fax machine.
Oh my God.
Copier.
Yes. And I had to, because I almost put that song on my blog. It's good to be a unicorn. That was actually a blog from a couple weeks ago. And I was listening to the song, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to put that on my blog. I'm not going to do that, but it's good to be a unicorn. I feel very safe with that. That one,
you can connect with that one better.
Absolutely. And then Brandy was awesome enough to come up with a tagline for me, because I feel like with this podcast, it allows me to be the DJ of my world. So I'm bringing people into my world, and I'm sharing them with others. And so my new little tagline is, go forth and be magical. And I was wondering if you would like to take us out with a go forth and be magical to close out the podcast.
Go forth and be magical.
We will go forth and be magical together.
Absolutely. I would go forth and be magical on a daily basis. I'm going to wake up thinking that now every morning.